Today, we're tackling something we all do every single day, but maybe understand less than we think. Sleep.
Crucial stuff.
We've gone through a really interesting TED Talk transcript to pull out the key bits about how sleep affects, your brain, your body, everything, really.
And often in ways that are quite surprising.
Exactly. So our mission today is basically to cut through the usual advice and get to the core science, why sleep is way more than just, resting.
Absolutely. Because we're not just talking about feeling a bit tired. The evidence we looked at, it really suggests pretty profound consequences.
How so?
Well, impacting everything from, say, reproductive health right through to your risk of dementia much later in life. These are deep biological processes.
Okay, let's jump straight into something that might make people pay attention. Reproductive health. The research mentioned a pretty direct link, especially for men, something about lack of sleep and...
Yeah, it's quite startling, actually. The study found men consistently getting 5 hours of sleep or less. They tended to have significantly smaller testicles.
Wow, okay. Compared to those getting more sleep.
Compared to those getting, say, 7-8 hours or more. And it's not just size, it's function too.
How does that work? What's the mechanism?
Well, it seems to be hormonal. That same lack of sleep, just 4 or 5 hours a night, consistently, it can lower a man's testosterone levels.
Lower them by how much?
To the level of someone basically 10 years older.
A decade older. Just from poor sleep.
That's what the data suggests. And when you think about what testosterone does, not just reproduction, but energy, muscle, bone health, it's a major hit.
It really is. And the source also mentioned this isn't just a male issue, right? Women's reproductive health is affected too.
That's right. Similar impairments. Lack of sleep seems to disrupt fundamental reproductive processes across the board. It really highlights how, integral sleep is.
Okay, so it hits us at a pretty fundamental level. Let's switch gears a bit. Memory and learning. We all kind of know sleep is important here, but how?
Yes, the talk breaks this down really nicely. 2 main ways, essentially. First, after you learn something, sleep helps to, lock it in.
Like hitting the save button.
Exactly like hitting save. It consolidates the memory, makes it stick. But maybe even more critical is what sleep does before you learn.
Before? How does that work?
It prepares your brain, makes it receptive, and the analogy used was a dry sponge ready to absorb new information.
Okay, I like that. So if you haven't slept...
Your sponge is already waterlogged, basically. Your ability to soak up new stuff is significantly reduced.
And there was a study that showed this quite clearly.
Oh yeah, a striking one. They took 2 groups. One got a full 8-hour sleep. The other kept awake all night.
No sleep at all. Supervised, I assume.
Yep, supervised, no naps, no caffeine cheats. Then they tried to teach both groups new things while scanning their brain.
And the results?
Pretty dramatic. The sleep-deprived group showed, get this, a 40% deficit in their ability to make new memories compared to the rest of the group.
40%? That's huge.
Huge. The speaker put it in terms of, that's the difference between acing an exam and failing it completely.
Wow. Okay. So if you're a student, a doctor, anyone needing to learn.
That 40% is a massive disadvantage.
And the brain scans actually showed why. Something about the hippocampus.
Exactly. The hippocampus is kind of the brain's inbox for new information, new memories.
Right.
In the rested group, you saw lots of healthy activity there during learning.
Yeah.
But in the sleep-deprived group...
Nothing.
Pretty much nothing significant. It was like the inbox was full or offline. New information wasn't getting processed. It was just bouncing off.
So the classic all-nighter to cram for a test.
Might be the absolute worst thing you could do for actually remembering anything. It seems completely counterintuitive, but that's what the science suggests.
Okay, so it's not just if you sleep, maybe the type of sleep too, especially for saving those memories.
Precisely. Deep sleep seems to be key for that memory consolidation, that saving process.
Deep sleep. What happens then?
Well, your brainwaves slow right down,
Yeah.
but you also get these amazing bursts of electrical activity called sleep spindles.
Sleep spindles.
Think of them like a rapid file transfer system. They seem to help move memories from that temporary inbox, the hippocampus, to more permanent storage elsewhere in the brain.
Fascinating. So it's physically moving the data in a way?
That seems to be the idea, yeah. A crucial overnight process.
Which brings us to aging, I suppose, because often as people get older, memory gets worse and sleep often gets worse too. Is there a connection there?
A very strong connection, it seems, particularly with that deep sleep we were just talking about. As we age, the amount and quality of deep sleep often declines quite significantly.
And the research suggests this isn't just happening alongside cognitive decline.
No, it suggests it might be a major driver of it. Disrupted deep sleep seems to be a really significant factor in why memory and learning falter in aging, and potentially even in conditions like Alzheimer's.
That's quite sobering. But the talk mentioned a potential upside, a silver lining.
Yes, because unlike, say, physical changes in the brain structure, sleep is something we can potentially influence. It's modifiable. Well, researchers are exploring things like using mild electrical stimulation, direct current brain stimulation during sleep.
To do what? Boost the deep sleep?
Essentially, yeah. To try and amplify those deep sleep brain waves and hopefully enhance the memory benefits that come with them. Early trials in young adults look promising.
So the hope is to eventually use this for older adults, maybe even those with dementia.
That's the long-term goal. If you could restore some of that deep sleep quality, could you potentially restore some learning and memory function? It's a really exciting area.
It really is. Okay, so we've seen sleep's massive role in the brain, memory, learning, aging, but it's not just the brain, is it?
Not at all. The effects on the body are just as profound.
Right. The transcript made that very clear. Sleep is vital for physical health, too. And the daylight saving time example was incredible.
Yeah, the global experiment, as the speaker called it, 1.6 billion people changing their sleep schedule by just 1 hour, twice a year.
And the impact on heart attacks.
It's striking. In the spring, when we lose that hour, hospitals see a 24% increase in heart attacks the very next day.
24% from one lost hour.
And conversely, in the autumn, when we gain an hour, there's the 21% reduction in heart attacks.
It really shows how finely tuned our bodies are to sleep.
Absolutely. That's sensitive. And it's not just heart attacks.
What else?
Same pattern for car crashes, even suicide rates, apparently. Increase when we lose sleep, decrease when we gain it. Even small shifts have big consequences.
Okay, wow. So heart health, safety. What about our defenses, our immune system?
Also critically dependent on sleep. The talk highlighted these cells called natural killer cells.
Natural killer cells sounds intense.
They are. They're like the immune system's secret service agents. They find and destroy dangerous things like potential cancer cells or viruses.
We definitely want those working well.
You really do. But there was an experiment. They restricted people to just 4 hours of sleep for one single night.
Okay, just 4 hours. What happened to the killer cells?
Their activity plummeted. A 70% drop.
70. After just one bad night.
A 70% reduction in these critical immune cells. It shows just how quickly sleep deprivation weakens your defenses.
That's genuinely alarming, and it makes the link to cancer risk seem much more direct.
Exactly. And other studies have now linked shorter sleep duration over time with an increased risk of several cancers. Bowel, prostate, breast.
Wow.
In fact, the World Health Organization even classifies nighttime shift work as a probable carcinogen.
Because it messes with your sleep cycle so much.
Precisely. That disruption of your natural rhythm seems to be inherently risky from a health perspective.
So you really can't just power through on less sleep without consequences. And it goes even deeper than the immune system, right? Down to our genes.
It appears so. Another study took healthy adults, limited them to 6 hours sleep a night for just 1 week.
Okay, 6 hours. Still more than 4, but less than ideal.
Right. And compared to when they got 8 hours, over 711 genes, I think it was, showed distorted activity. Their function changed.
700 genes. How were they affected?
About half were turned down, downregulated. And many of those were crucial for the immune system, tying back to what we just discussed.
And the other half, the ones that were turned up?
Those were less welcome. Genes associated with promoting tumors, with chronic inflammation, with stress, with cardiovascular disease. Their activity increased.
So less sleep means less immune defense and more activity in genes linked to serious diseases.
That's the implication. It really drives home the point that basically no aspect of your health is left untouched by a lack of sleep. It affects everything, right down to your DNA expression.
It's like, the speaker said, a broken water pipe in your house, it damages everything it touches.
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
Okay, well, it's a lot to take in and maybe a bit worrying for people listening. So, practically speaking, what can people do? What advice was offered for getting better sleep?
Well, the basics were mentioned. Avoiding caffeine and alcohol too close to bed. They really disrupt sleep quality.
Right. And maybe avoid naps if you struggle at night.
Yeah. Daytime naps can sometimes make nighttime insomnia worse for some people.
Yeah.
But The two big takeaways, the really actionable ones, were about regularity and temperature.
Regularity, meaning go to bed and wake up at the same time.
Exactly. Every day. Weekends included, as much as possible. It anchors your sleep rhythm, your circadian clock. It makes a huge difference to both how much sleep you get and how good that sleep is.
Consistency is key.
Very key.
And the other one was temperature, keeping the bedroom cool.
Yes. Your body's core temperature needs to drop slightly to initiate and maintain sleep. A cool room helps that happen.
How cool are we talking?
Around 65 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 18 Celsius. That seems to be the sweet spot for most people.
Okay, so regularity in a cool room. Those sound doable. Things people could actually try.
Definitely. Simple, but potentially powerful.
So wrapping things up, what's the kind of the bottom line message from all this?
The absolute core message is that sleep isn't optional. It's not a luxury. It's a fundamental biological need, like breathing, like drinking water.
A non-negotiable biological necessity, I think was the phrase.
That's it. And this widespread lack of sleep we see in modern society, it's described as a kind of silent epidemic.
With huge costs.
Massive costs to our health, our safety, our kids' education. It's undermining us in so many ways.
So we need to kind of reclaim sleep, stop seeing it as laziness.
Absolutely. Reframe it. See it as the most powerful health elixir we have. The speaker called it the Swiss Army knife of health.
I like that. Now, there was also a little bit at the end about common questions, like can you catch up on lost sleep?
Ah, yes. The short answer seems to be not really. Not in the way you might think, like paying back a debt.
So sleeping all weekend doesn't just erase the deficit from the week?
Apparently not fully. The effects of sleep loss seem quite immediate, and evolution just hasn't given us a good catch-up mechanism. Maybe because, well, humans are pretty unique in deliberately skipping sleep.
Right. No other animal does it quite like us.
Exactly. So there's no safety net built in.
And what about lying awake? Tossing and turning. What was the advice there?
The advice was, don't do it. Don't lie there getting frustrated. If you're awake for, say, 20 minutes or so, get out of bed.
Go somewhere else.
Yeah. Different room, dim light, do something relaxing, read a book, listen to quiet music. Only go back to bed when you actually feel sleepy again.
To break the association between bed and being awake and frustrated?
Precisely. You need to retrain your brain that bed is for sleeping. The analogy was you wouldn't sit at the dinner table waiting to get hungry for hours, right?
Mm-hmm. No, you wouldn't. That makes sense.
Don't just lie in bed waiting to get sleepy.
Got it. Well, this has certainly been quite the deep dive. Some of these connections are really startling.
They really are. I mean, the sheer breadth of it, from your testosterone levels in your genes to heart attacks and memory, sleep is just woven into everything.
It really underscores that making time for sleep isn't selfish or unproductive. It's probably the single most effective thing you can do for your health.
Couldn't agree more. It's foundational for your physical health, your mental health, today and decades from now.
So for you listening, maybe the big takeaway is just that prioritize it. Treat it like the essential medicine it seems to be.
Which leads us to maybe the final thought for you to consider. Based on everything we've talked about, what's one thing, just one small thing, you could maybe change starting tonight or this week to improve your own sleep?
Yeah, think about that. Even a little shift towards better sleep could, make a world of difference.